And then, yeah, or Ben, if you just want to tell us a little bit more about your question, and then Drew, if you'd be down to talk about that handoff.
Yeah, I honestly didn't know which question to roll with, but I think a more generally applicable question would be about Figma, and I'm a big fan of using. Maybe you've heard of Rive, which is animated SVGs and micro interactions, which these other no-code website builders aren't particularly good at incorporating quite yet. Bubble, sort of, Webflow, sort of, and usually you have to use the whole After Effects to Lottie, that whole pipeline for motion design. And so I'm big into motion design, and so I'm just wondering what Bildr does with both just your typical Figma design and motion design, such as Rive or something like Framer.js.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I wish I knew what Rive actually exported more, like how it works a little more. I don't know the details, but I'm pretty confident you can integrate it with Bildr, no problem.
Or it just exports SVGs and GIFs and pretty much anything you'd need from an animated design file.
Does it come with like JavaScript to control them, you mean, or it's just that it's all contained in the SVG?
It's contained within the SVG, yeah.
I think Bildr might just use that then, right? Right, Mark? Probably just.
Yeah, that's actually how I do like when you create a new project and you see the little Bildr icon with the blocks moving around. It basically contains the keyframes all inside of the SVG, and I literally just uploaded that file to the media library. Or there's other versions, because actually when we changed now that we're going to dark mode, I wanted a different version, so I actually just pasted directly the what do you call it, the data URI directly in that element, and that works too. But I did have to contain all the keyframes inside of the SVG.
Yeah.
And Bildr is built within Bildr. I think I saw that somewhere.
Yep.
Okay, that's very cool.
Yeah, Mark, is there something you can show to kind of visually represent this?
Yeah, I think like right here on when you drop an image by default, it's actually like defaulted to data URI, and you can literally, this is an SVG here, you can literally just paste anything you want in here. Yeah. So technically, if you've got that data URI, you could just paste it in here, and it's just gonna go. Alternatively, you can go media library and go upload anything you want. I have a really strange bug in Brave right now. When I click this, it doesn't do anything. Since my computer restarted yesterday, I don't understand what's going on. So in Chrome, it works fine. I don't know. But yeah, you just choose your file, and then you can go upload whatever you want. So whatever you've exported from Rive, you can do either if you've got it locally, or if you've got the data, just paste it in. You will run into those same data limits if it's enormous. So that's the only other thing to be aware of, is like if you do a data URI here and it's bigger than 56K, it's not going to be able to paste it and save in there. So in that case, just upload it to the media library as an SVG file. I think it should just work.
Yeah.
And also, it's like the way we started this conversation was with this Firefox thing, which is the same thing. It's an animated SVG, but that one is controlled by the user is manipulating it. So in that case, it's a similar thing, but it's like you export the SVG, you get it into Bildr, and then you can put that JavaScript right into Bildr. You don't have to do anything special to actually get the JavaScript to work, and it'll work and control it the same way it would with code. So there might be some specifics, like I said, if, depending on what the animation is, what the interaction is, but I'm totally confident the tool, that Bildr, can handle it for sure.
Okay, that's really cool. I guess the other question which I had initially was how to build a Chrome extension that calls to a database for an app that I have, and I have a chatbot builder, which is a no-code tool of itself, and I would just want to put it into a Chrome extension so that you can open it up and it just pops up like one of those sales landing page chatbots but without having to be installed by the website owner, but as a Chrome extension. And basically it acts as the search engine for the database of the web app.
And are you wanting to build the UI of the chatbot inside the Chrome extension, or are you wanting to
Yeah,
reference?
it'd
Okay.
basically be just UI with the backend call to the central database.
Gotcha. So basically they're gonna, but it'd be like a chat UI, right? Like they're typing into a chat, they hit enter,
Right,
does
right,
the
exactly.
API call, response comes back. Yeah, so let me show my screen one more time. There would be obviously some, a bunch of styling that would need to happen here to make it actually look like you're chatting. But effectively, you're going to do a very similar thing to what we did here with that Xano API. And so let's do this. I'm going to put an input on here. So we'll go to text input here. Now imagine this is styled to where it's like a nice chat looking UI, and they're going to type in here, and maybe we put a button on it and we would style that nicely too. But for now, we'll just do like this. So, we'll go send or something like that. So now we want to run a flow that's going to do an API call, and we want to run that flow on the click of the send and also on hitting enter on the input here. So let's do that part first, and then we'll talk about what do we do with that response? How do we display it on the UI? So first of all, I'm going to go to the send button, go to my events, and on click of that, I want to do a new flow because we're just going to do something brand new here. So I'll just call this API database lookup or something like that. And then we're going to add one action in this case for now. We'll start with one action. So I'm just going to type API, and we're going to use the generic API call action type. So in here, this gets totally dependent on what the API requires, but you can do any type of API call you need. I would assume this is going to be a get, would be most likely, it might be a post. You'll need to paste in whatever that URL is. And then depending on the need of that API, it's either going to require some sort of URL parameters, or if it's a post, it might have a body that's required. So if you get into the weeds there, we can help you out too with creating that API call. If there's documentation around it, that helps a ton. But basically, you go create that API call, and then the response, in this case, I would probably set it into a variable. Versus on the Xano, when we just did, we set it straight into the grid. And we did that because we knew that the response was going to already be a clean JSON array. And a clean JSON array, we can just set straight in. Whereas in this case, we're going to get some data back. And that data is going to likely be something like, response, and then a property called, the value. And then inside of there is what we want to take. So I would set it into a variable, and then you can take that information and use it however you need to create whatever the next step in the UI is. So it does get a little more complicated from there, but there's no reason that you can't do this exact UI. Most of it's going to be styling and manipulating the response of that data. The only other thing I would add here is I put that action on click here. I also want to make it run on enter when they hit enter in this field. To do that, you use one of the key events, which are defaulted into any input. You're going to see these key events. You can also add key events manually. If you type key in here, you can add them manually. Let's use key up in this case. But instead of just selecting the action or selecting the flow, if I select this flow here, what that means is every time the key comes up off the keyboard, it's going to run that flow. So it would like run on every keystroke, which we don't want that. We want it only when they hit enter at the end. So I would remove that and go add key code and choose enter, which is up here at the top because it's one of the most common. But really you can also it's literally like any key code you want. You can execute whatever flow you'd like, and then run that action, that flow on enter. So now the same flow is going to execute whether it's on enter here or on button click here. It's going to run that same flow. So one more thing, after this API call runs, you want to run a flow on success and a flow on error. So you would create a success flow, which is going to do a set of things, and you would create an error flow that would do a set of things. So what happens is, if it's a success, I run the success flow here. And if it's an error, I run the error flow. So now API call goes out, it comes back on success. I'm going to use that information from that variable to do a thing, set it into the grid, or however, just totally depends on what you want that UX to be at that point. Or if it's an error, maybe display an error message, say, contact support or something like that. But without knowing the API, it's kind of hard to go any further than that, but you can definitely do this process back and forth.
For sure. And Ben, if there's like a specific API or like setup that you have, chat it in the Discord. We have like an integrations channel, and you can literally just like chat us your preview and be like, hey, I'm stuck on this thing, or I'm trying to do this thing, and we're happy to go kind of take a look.
Okay, I can hop into the Discord. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great place. Like if you're trying to figure out how to do something, someone will jump in there and help you, whether it's one of us or one of the community.
Yeah, if there's some good documentation on that API, it's usually just sort of like point and click almost at that point, or copy paste at that point.